It's time now to review headlines on today's newspapers. We will be doing this here in the studio. Unfortunately, we're missing Mr. KK in the studio today, but we will begin with the newspaper of record, This Day newspaper, on Sunday. And beginning with the masthead, despite macroeconomic headwinds, 15 Nigerian companies post 12 trillion naira revenue in H1 of 2025. Despite grappling with macroeconomic headwinds, Nigeria's biggest companies have remained resilient, with 15 of them, including, and I have to mention, Dangote Cement, MTN Nigeria, and Seplat Energy, generating a combined revenue of 12.7 trillion naira in the first half of 2025.
Yes, I would say, though, after they have the upward review by the telecoms sector and the minister there allowing telecoms operators to increase the tariffs on our calls, MTN's had a jaw-dropping 2.17 trillion, not 2.17 trillion, 2.38 trillion naira in revenue, up 54.5% from last year, from the same period last year. MTN outbeating oil companies like Seplat and Owando, outbeating BUA because our tariffs are higher. But I guess good for the companies and definitely a happy day for the people at MTN.
Well, bad for Nigerians, if I do say so myself, because those tariffs continue to go up. Well, Obasanjo Malema, over 20,000 lawyers gathered in Enugu for the 2025 NBA conference. But let's take a look at the major headline of the This Day newspapers today. PDP governors to party faithfuls resist attempts by anti-party forces to derail this convention. They're accusing APC of intimidation, anti-democratic actions in the last by-elections. We spoke about this extensively yesterday. And they commend the resilience of members in overcoming defections. Defections have become a thing that needs to be overcome, a powerful force that needs to be overcome.
Yeah, I think we can't miss out that story about the NBA conference that's happening in Enugu there, with Julius Malema of the EFF from South Africa visiting Nigeria, and with former President Obasanjo in attendance. But also, very importantly, with the PDP story, as we reported yesterday, the PDP governors were in Zamfara State for a pre-meeting before their neck. And you have the governors there, left to right. You have Sheyi Makinde of Oyo State, Abu Kefas of Taraba, Dauda Lawal, the host of Zamfara, Bala Muhammad of Bauchi, Doe Diri of Bayelsa, and Amadu Finitri of Adamawa and Ademola Adeleke of Osun State. They met in Zamfara at the same time. They're saying that we should overcome the defectors and, they should be resilient. We, of course, have Adeleke still commending Tinubu, even while with his fellow PDP governors.
Now, there has been a lot of talk about Atiku and his desire to run for the presidential ticket under ADC, and where that leaves Peter Obi remains to be seen. However, he is replying to several critics on the page of This Day newspapers this morning, saying that he is not desperate in his presidential ambition at all. And I think the final story there, empowering the women. We see the wife of the Chief of Staff to the President, Mrs. Salamatu Gbajabiamila, the wife of the former governor of Lagos State, Mrs. Bolanle Ambode, the senior special assistant to the President on SDGs, Princess Adejoke Orelokwe Adefulire, the wife of the Vice President, Hajiya Nana Shettima, the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu and his wife, Dr. Ibijoke, the Deputy Governor, Dr. Obafemi Hamzat and his wife, Oluremi. And this was all during the official presentation of empowerment items to 500 women by the First Lady at the Sports Pavilion of Lagos House in Ikeja yesterday.
Ifan, I'm sure a lot of people have seen the video online of the cars and cars and cars and cars of the convoy that followed the First Lady to present this to 500 women. It could have been 100 cars in that convoy, but now that we've seen this picture of the heavy hitters who were there at the event, it would make sense as to why there were so many cars there.
But of course, we can take a look at This Day Style today. the cover of This Day Style, speaking to a very, very sweet, sweet story, Ojude Oba, celebrating the horse riders, specifically the people who made it enjoyable to watch, amongst many other people who were unable to make it to the cover of this day. But I think that these definitely represent the many in color, in fashion, in style, and of course, in gender. We see the male and the female side duly represented. On the cover of This Day Style, we see Adedoyin Badewa Alatishe. We see Farouk Oreagba, Mr. Steez, as we know him. We see Folarin Kuku. We see Omoba Adeboye Kasali. We see Princess Adeshile Ajigbotesho. And we see Yusuf Ayokunle Dongo. And of course, they also went on to talk about other festivals in Nigeria worth knowing: the Durbar Festival, the Calabar Festival, the Ofala Festival, which happens in Onitsha, Anambra State, and many, many others. You definitely want to take a look at This Day Style online for your debrief on the top festivals and how they go down here in Nigeria.
Definitely. This is a fun day for me. See two of our family members on the front cover of This Day, celebrating our Ijebu, our Ijebu horse riders for Ojude Oba. And of course, they are a living archive to what Ojude Oba has become, which is memory in motion, style with spine, and heritage that refuses to sit down. I think it's a beautiful display of culture there. And of course, as you said, shout out to Mr. Steez, to some, Uncle Farouk, to some of us, who has become very popular and possibly the face of Ojude Oba, now the unofficial face. But the story there, they have a whole spread and they interview each of them. And it's a very lovely display of culture and what happens when we invest in it and we reclaim it in this new era.
Absolutely.
So let's go to the Sunday Punch there. Sunday Punch, we have the main headline under the masthead: Presidency kicks as PDP governors accuse the federal government of untold anti-democratic actions. And the writer there says governors condemn intimidation, militarization of by-elections. Allegations baseless. They're hurting from election losses, says the presidency, because this comes after the APC won 12 out of 16 federal constituencies in the last by-elections, and also as the governors have said that the federal government is using intimidation tactics on PDP governors to either force them to move to the APC, with Adeleke as an example, with the withholding of funds for the local government chairman in Osun State, and also allegations that there was an AFCC stick beat over the head of the current governor of Delta State, who moved from the PDP to the APC. Now, the PDP governors, of course, are accusing the federal government of untold anti-democratic actions, as though there are some things we might not know about, and that story is on page 3. We have the same picture here of the heavy hitters in Lagos for the empowerment of 500 women, but some important stories on the side. Delayed appointments, career diplomats face retirement. Nigerians dying daily in South Africa after hospital ban. And reps query NERC over 59 billion naira in metering funds.
All right, well, we can take a look at The Nation on Sunday. Of course, the major headline still speaking to the same issue. For 2027, governors in power game to pick successors. This is a very, very, very pivotal time as we head into November. Abiodun Makinde, Abdul Razak keep cards close to their chests. Anxiety in states as aspirants intensify consultations. With the massive defection that we have seen in a couple of states, I think this would definitely be an interesting one for those who did not defect with their principles. We have another story at the head of the paper: alleged multi-million-dollar fraud. Now, we have seen this story across the papers all weekend. Atiku's in-law feigned medical emergency. Of course, his lawyers have come out to describe this as to call it a lie. But it goes on to say, suspect accused of acting as drain pipe for top NNPC officials risks seizure of private jets. You want to know some more about that story? You will find that on page 2. And on page 5, you will see how Dangote escaped multi-billionaire fraud. And that is according to the IGP telling the court has ordered arrests of 5 Asians, freezes 5 accounts to which billions are traced. Now, we see that same story as we saw in this day repeated on The Nation on page 7, where he says, I'm not desperate to become president. Atiku wants Nigerians to know that this is not a desperate attempt. He is not desperate to become our president. Maybe this leaves that position in ADC open for somebody else, for instance, Rotimi Amechi, who has said very clearly that if at all he does come into power, he will only be doing 1 term. It leaves that position open for others to maybe try or vie their luck.
Yeah, but Atiku was saying there that I'm not desperate to be president. I'm desperate for good governance. So he's not saying that he's not still going for that position. He's saying that even though I keep going for this position, it's not out of desperation for my personal want to be president. It's out of my desperation for good leadership for Nigeria. If you see somebody else
maybe if you see somebody else that, okay, you know what, this person, because I want the good of Nigerians so badly, this person might actually be the one. He might be willing to relinquish that position for them. But just to wrap things up on The Nation today, and I do want us to take a look at the story on page 6. NAF strikes kill 35 terrorists near the Nigeria-Cameroon border. We have spoken this weekend extensively on our security apparatus and wins and some losses as well that we have seen over the last couple of weeks. And this is definitely a win, with NAF strikes killing 35 terrorists, to be very specific, near the Nigeria-Cameroon border.
Should we take the Sunday?
I think we can.
Yeah, we can quickly take the Sunday Vanguard, where we have this picture yet again. However, this is a blown-up version of the picture of Senator Oluremi Tinubu, the First Lady, and the people who went with her for this empowerment project, where we see some small generators, I believe, maybe a sewing machine. When we talk about the weaponization of poverty, when we talk about the weaponization of poverty, we would understand what it is for the First Lady of the most populous black nation in the world to empower women
as well.
Yeah, to empower women with small gen, and to be followed by the governor, his wife, the deputy governor, his wife, the wife to the chief of staff of the country, the SDGs, who is in charge of our SDGs, the princess in charge of our SDGs, our sustainable development goals. However, what we have here is small gen.
Small gen.
Yeah, but a very important story that's on the Sunday Vanguard, that's on the rest, is chilling confessions of an ex-soccer star. I trafficked over 100 boys and girls abroad.
Is he in prison as he's telling this story?
I really would hope so. The rest of that story is on page 13.
Well, what a day. That brings us today to the end of the morning show. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kachi Ofia.
And I'm Adesu Agiroasage from our entire team here in Lagos, Nigeria. Enjoy the rest of your morning and, of course, the rest of your day. Goodbye.